I see a cloud. So good morning, afternoon, and evening, fellow Kubernetes people. Welcome to the first meeting for Kubernetes 118. I am your humble host, Jorge Alarcón, and I will be the lead for Kubernetes 118. I'm really trying to make up the script as I go. But since this is the first release for this is the first meeting for 118. Figure might as well spend some time just everyone getting to know each other. So this is a perfect time for you to introduce yourself, say whatever tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you happy? What makes you wake up in the morning or evening, afternoon, whatever your sleep cycle tells you to do. And since I'm already talking, I'm just gonna start off. So I'm a software engineer, site reliability engineer, that kind of thing. So besides contributing to Kubernetes, I am also I'm also a downstream user. Other than that, so 118 lead, I'm just gonna keep it short, nice, cute. And I guess we can go down the list in the way that we are supposed to give updates for the rest of the meetings. And let's start with enhancements. Is Jeremy here?
Yep, I'm here. How's it going? So I'm Jeremy. Nice to see everyone again. Hope everybody had a good holiday season if you took it, and Happy New Year. So I'm a software engineer at VMware, not Microsoft. Changed jobs at the end of the year last year. Sorry, Lucky. In terms of enhancements, we have a spreadsheet. I added it to the link here and to the template up above. It's pretty much the same as the one from last time. There's a little bit of change. So if you did enhancements last time, or if you did docs last time, the major difference is that we broke the docs stuff into a separate tab on the spreadsheet. So it's all, it won't be as difficult to hopefully use. Data's been updated so far, and I haven't started pinging people yet. I was waiting for the dates to finalize for the release before I sent the email to the KDev list. So I'll do that today, hopefully, if we agree on the dates. I did start pinging all of the things that graduated in 117 that didn't close their KEPs, and taking care of some of that. And hopefully next week we'll have a start of the list of things that are being tracked if people start responding. I'm going to go through and start pinging people this week, and then as the shadows come on, we can start having them track some of the issues too. So I made the status green because there's nothing missing yet. That's pretty much it for me. So we can go to CI Signal next.
So hello everyone, Happy New Year. My name is Nicolas Moraitis. I will be leading the role of CI Signal in this release. I can tell something about myself. I've been working in Red Hat the last 3 years as a software engineer. I mostly contribute to Pro, so that's why I'm a best fit for CI Signal, since I know most things about Pro and how the jobs are working. And I'm really glad that I'm working with you guys. So let's move on. So master blocking, only one failed job. There is an open issue, no response yet. Master informing, there are 2 jobs that are failing that there is no response yet. The issue was opened a couple of days ago. And there are other 3 jobs that are under investigation. And there's one job, the GC Windows Master, which is like failing for 2 releases behind. So everybody knows about this issue. Release BISC, there is 1 job failing. I just realized I will open issue after the meeting, and I will ping the responsible people to take care of it. 170 blocking, only 1 flaky job. The rest are okay. And 117 informing, only 3 flaky jobs and 1 job is failing. And there are other 2 jobs that are failing, but they are also related with master informing jobs that are failing. I have opened an issue about the GC's course Kubernetes beta serial. No response yet, I just opened it. And pretty much that's all, guys. Any questions?
Comments, but not questions. I'm in the process of tweaking some of the version markers. So some of those PRs have merged already. I need to figure out what we want to do around version markers, because we've been using things like the Kate's beta, Kate's staple 1, 2, 3, but those shift, and not everyone knows when they shift, and some people use them with the assumption that certain things will happen, whether it be skew tests, whether it be upgrade, downgrade, stuff like that, right? So they all have kind of different behavior. I'd like to get us to a point where we can do job generation based on what is correct at the current point in time. So if we're doing skew against the the upcoming release and the release prior, it's 118 to it's 117 to master, or 117 to 118 or something like that, and it's very explicit about what versions we're using. So there's some work. I can link those PRs, but just in general, watch the you're going to want to watch the all the tests that are on master informing and block, like you're already doing. Never mind. But also the tests that are in SIG release generated and SIG release job config errors, right? So SIG release generated are the jobs. Those are jobs that I've moved to that. I've moved to that dashboard because they're generated jobs, but they're generated jobs that don't necessarily have an owner. So I believe someone was asking a question about like what's going on with like the alpha features job, right? So it says that like we own it, but we kind of own it, but the community owns it. But like, so, like whoever is available to actually fix it can fix it. So there are jobs like that, right? So that's on the generated board. And then the job config errors board, I consider an error to be a job that looks like it belongs to SIG, but doesn't report into SIG's dashboard and only lands on our dashboards, whether it be blocking or informing. So watch out for those jobs this cycle. I think most of them are not on informing or blocking anyway, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. And that will probably be fixed once I tweak the version markers as well. So just in general, watch all the boards. The release engineering one. So release engineering, the ones that are on somewhere in informing and they're failing, but they're passing. So I've noticed those. I'm going to be working on those, stuff like the Deb Builder and the RPM Builder ones. And those are failing, but not failing because there's currently a refactor going on with the way that we build Debs and RPMs. And the SIG release MISC, you're probably going to see a few of those jobs move off from SIG release MISC into something that is more formal, SIG release engineering. I don't know what to call the board yet because I don't like the fact that SIG release engineering stutters. But I'm going to figure that out and then move some boards around. But I'll keep you in the loop about that.
Thanks. Actually, I was asking about this alpha job, and it would be pretty nice if we have some more confidence about those generated jobs. And also, it would be really nice as well if you link all the PRs of the working that we are doing regarding the dashboards. Would be really great.
Yeah, once we update I think you're already part of the CI Signal team on GitHub. Yeah, you should be. I'll ping that team on the open PRs right now.
Excellent. Thank you very much, man.
Yep.
Man, that's impressive. First meeting, and we already have work to do. Anyone has any more comments, questions for CI Signal? Sweet. Also, before I forget, since we are actually talking about release team stuff now, if anybody wants to help me take notes, it will be much appreciated. And you get to put your name near the top of the list. So you're going to be that's a good way to get famous. And other than that, bug triage. Silvia, I saw your name here.
Yeah. So hi, my name is Silvia. I've been Signal for past bug triage for the last release. And so I am now a bug triage lead for 118 and really happy to be working with you, George, as release lead. So I work as an engineer, so I'm based in so status is great. This 18 weeks of the and up the triage and also the tracking spreadsheets.
You were breaking up a little.
Oh, I'm sorry. My internet connection is unstable for some reason. So what was the part that didn't come across?
Let me.
Okay.
So at least the things I came across is you've been an amazing contributor, been working on CI signal and bug triage for past releases, and other than that, there is an update for the bug triage handbook. Those couple things came across the wire. Are there?
Yeah. So it's so I'm working on that and on the spreadsheet that we use on the VR.
Sweet. Thank you so much for that. Let's take a moment. Anyone has any questions for bug triage? Comments?
So just a note for bug triage and issue triage in general on Kubernetes. I'm going to be trying to land a KEP early in the session for 118 around issue triage in general. We're going to try to introduce some new labels into Kubernetes to make it easier to triage stuff over there. There is an issue open that has been open for a while that I'm going to try to pick up. It is, I'll link it, but once that KEP pops up, I'd love feedback on it, so that we can try to improve basically the idea is to add triage labels so that we can get to a point where SIGs have an easy way of telling what is in their queue and what has not been looked at from them, so that there's less work for the bug triage team to actually do. That is like less non-SIG release specific work for the bug triage team to do. You sound excited, but you're breaking up.
Yeah, hopefully there was some excitement. I think I saw a smile. But I guess, I mean, actually, that's pretty awesome. Please link the KEP and the issue at some point, and let's go on to docs. Is Pinet here?
Hello everyone. Firstly, Happy New Year. So I'll be the docs lead for 1.18. I was part of 1.16 and then 1.17 release cycle, and then I'm much more excited to start 2020 by being part of 1.18. It's really good. Thank you. And I want to thank Jeremy for creating a separate tab for docs, which will make our job much more easier. Thanks for having another tab for docs. And I work as a software developer for a company called Aqua Security. So I also contribute to a project called Cortex. And yes, I also contribute for Kubernetes by being part of SIG release. That's it. Thank you.
That's pretty damn awesome. I love how you just finish with that's it. And that was docs. Next up on the list, release notes. Eddie, are you here?
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, my name is Eddie Villalba. I am the lead for release notes this cycle. I was a shadow on 117, and I was also on enhancements on 116. I've been at Microsoft for 10 years, working the last 4 years on our cloud native platform, all around Kubernetes. So it's kind of my background there, and a frequent contributor to upstream Kubernetes as well. I will be, in terms of, I do have work already. So since we do have a new tag for alpha.1, I'll be working on running the release notes tool and updating the release notes website for 1.18 alpha 1 and the draft notes as well. So those PRs will be in most likely before Wednesday.
Can you tag George and the rest of the team on those? I know like release notes seem to be a place that gets the drafts seem to get lost because they're in a weird place in the repo. So just make sure that you tag a bunch of us on it to approve them. Yeah, they usually get lost for a few weeks before they get merged in. So
yeah, so you're talking about the draft notes that go under SIG release, the Kubernetes / SIG release under the releases, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
One note on docs, just to go backwards, is that we'll be working on a, so Jim will be working on the, allowing the SIG docs to use one of the new tools that we've created, Krell Fast Forward, so that their workflow is kind of simpler. Jim, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little before we move on from docs.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, appreciate the heads up there. But yeah, we're definitely looking at improving our merge strategy. So right now we take the upstream release and we cut a branch called dev dash whatever the current release is. So in this case, v1.18. And then what we do is we occasionally merge master back into there. And this past release cycle, we had some problems where some other folks were using that branch as well, creating a ton of merge conflicts. So the goal here is to automate it using the KREL or some sort of automated fashion and tooling to kind of streamline the process and take really the people out of the automation part of it and really just rely on the machines to keep our branches all up to date and synchronized there. So still much a work in progress. I'm not sure if KREL will work entirely for it because of our emerging strategy where occasionally we'll take a conflict from upstream and occasionally take conflicts from the branch itself. But that's definitely a work in progress. I'll be working with Beneath on that.
That sounds great. Thank you very much for jumping in with all that, Jim. And anyone has any more comments, questions on docs or release notes? Going once, twice, and communications. Karen, what's your name?
Yeah, Karen. Hi everyone, I'm Karen. I work at Microsoft as a community manager on the same team as Locky, actually. So I'm the community manager for the Azure Container Compute upstream team. And so I've been a shadow on the communications team for the last 2 releases and am a lead for this release. Yeah, so I've done it a few times. I'm excited to be here. We don't currently have any updates because it's the start of the release, but as we move further on, hopefully I'll have some updates. Yeah.
That's pretty good. And the best update is just getting to know you. Thank you very much for that. Next down the list, release branch management.
Hello, friends. Hi, I'm introduction real quick. I'm Stephen Augustus. I am one of the SIG release chairs, as well as a patch release team member. and I am a lead. I'm the lead for the cloud native advocacy and tooling team at VMware. I'm actually not the branch manager for 118. Carlos has that honor, as well as Sasha, who will be backing him up. So Sasha recently was promoted to branch manager. So thank you for your work so far, Sasha. We recently cut the 118 Alpha 1. Well, not recently, actually. It was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago or something before vacation. But essentially the idea around that was we realized there's kind of a disconnect between the 118.0, which gets cut, which gets cut around the time that we cut the, when does that happen? The beta, I guess the beta for the previous cycle. So there's several commits ahead of master. So several commits behind master when we cut it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add the branch management. We're going to add another release to the end of the cycles. So the branch manager moving forward for 118 will be responsible for cutting the 119 Alpha 1, just to make sure that alpha is a little closer and we get tags for that so people who are developing can use those tags ahead of time. I will add that to the branch management handbook, doing some sweeps of some of that documentation in the coming weeks. Outside of that, we are the schedule is open, so anyone who has not had a chance to review, and Jorge, I'm sure you're going to mention this soon, but anyone who's not had a chance to review the release schedule in general will be in lockstep. So the branch managers will be showing up to the release team meetings just to make sure that they're synced up with the team. But once that schedule is landed, that's when we'll be releasing the alphas, betas, RCs, and actual releases. There are some more release management updates. So for a few of you who were in the release engineering meeting immediately prior to this, you know about some of the stuff that's going on, but what we are working towards is starting to build some of the same tooling that we have in that lives in Google infrastructure over in Kubernetes, Kate's infra. So we're trying to work those efforts in parallel with the release cycle. So you may see a few things that we're like, hey, we want to try this thing out. Is this okay, or can we, or can you help out with this? Help spread the word about foo. They're soon to be discovered what all the foos are, and once I do, I will write up a long, fun email to a bunch of lists about it. But outside of that, one thing that popped up from the previous cycle, I think during the retro, was a chat about. I'm going to skip it for now. I'm going to just leave it hanging in the air for now, because it's a bigger topic, and I don't want to do that on the first meeting.
Can you at least give us a heads up? Just the title.
The idea of so we talk about things that are release blocking, and I'm not sure that we've ever blocked a release for for any period of time, right? So what would it take for us to do that? Are we okay with breaking release timelines for the sake of making sure that there's a more stable release? I think in general the answer is yes, but what would be the process to do that? How long would we hold a release for? So when you mentioned something about 6-month releases, I was like, I don't know, maybe that could happen.
Sweet. So I guess internet 6-month releases may happen. That's the PSA from this meeting.
No, ideally not 6 months, but like, you know, if there was something that like, what is the level of severity for something to come up that would say, like, let's block a release until we're absolutely certain that something is not broken, right? Is it a Go vulnerability? Is it a scalability regression, some such, right? What's the criteria for actually blocking a release? Like, we have some tests in place that say that they are release blocking. How strictly do we adhere to that? Are there tests on the informing boards that should be blocking tests, right? Questions like that, right? So it's kind of fuzzy right now, but it's in my head rattling around.
I remember. I think you or Lucky opened an issue some weeks ago on the release retrospective. Is that conversation in there somewhere in some form?
I believe that's where we initially brought it up, so it should be in those notes. I am going to. So Lockie and I are currently assigned to that issue, but I'm going to. It's basically a dump of the notes right now. I'll tighten it up so that it's like action items as opposed to just a dump of notes. And then Lockie is going to run with that. He'll be bugging you throughout the cycle to make sure that people are burning down the issues that we talked about during the retrospective. Yay.
Sweet, sounds fun. And anyone has any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, Stephen, I have a question. Is there going to be a change then to currently like the release notes tool for the initial draft? We use the SHA as a start SHA. We use the SHA of, I guess it's RC1 of the prior release. So should we be going off of the Alpha 0 moving forward?
I feel like you should be going as close as possible to the diff between .0 and current. I know that I'll let Sasha speak to it maybe, because I know that there was recently a feature added for patch to patch, right?
Yeah.
So you can specify a patch and you can specify 2 patches and it'll output the diff between those 2. But I've never touched the release notes tool, so Sasha is definitely in a better position to talk about that.
Okay.
I'm not completely sure. I think we can stick to the latest final release for comparing right now, because we don't have a release branch yet.
Okay, so we'll still go off of RC.1 of the 1.17 for this release as the start SHA, and then the end SHA would be the SHA for Alpha.1. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Why? So, just curious, why do we go so far back?
Because that's technically the last commit on the first day of code thaw for the previous release.
Okay.
So then all the commits after that were
usually nonsense commits.
Part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Like
if that timeline's still true, that's the problem. If we change that timeline, we just need to make sure that we update the release notes process so that if we fix it so that the tag for .0 is always the start tag for each release, which would make more sense. That's the way we should move forward.
Yeah. So I believe, don't we do like a final release notes munging thing before we actually ship?
Yeah, but that's still not that. All it does is just cleans up the prior patch notes in the draft into just one big custom format. But it's still going off of the beginning SHA is still
the last RC
prior release. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Changes.
Talking about hashes, I think it was at some point around Christmas time, there was an issue with a bunch of jobs that broke because of some tag or so of the format of some tags. Is there a postmortem for that?
So Tim and I still have to fix that. That issue is assigned to us right now. Basically, what happened is witchcraft. Not sure. Some change. I don't think it was a recent change in Inago, but essentially what we do is we cut every time we cut an official release, we cut 2 releases, right? So we essentially cut the .0 and we cut a beta, right? The next beta. So what happened was the beta was, so in that order, right? So it's the .0 and then the next beta. So it picks up like if we bumped the open API spec, if we did a fast forward or something, if we, what's the other criteria? Or if we updated like the changelog, right? And that'll get picked up in the next beta. What happened was the beta was cut before the .0, and they ended up on the same commit. And of course, this all falls back to regex because why not? the regex that determines whether you're a CI version or a release version of Kubernetes did not like that because for reasons we're still determining, I guess. So the fix for that was to essentially cut a new beta across so I manually tagged each of the open release branches, so 14 through 16. So we shouldn't see, so for at least within the context of the release team, we technically have 3 months to solve this. From the context of the next patch release that could be affected by this, we have
a week,
9 days, yeah, a little less than a week to figure it out. So at least we have the manual tagging in our back pockets as a fix. But we also need to fix the regex. We also need to figure out what other pieces are broken, so there will be possibly random stage releases happening in the background. I'm not sure how we can mock the parts of the actual release that need to be mocked to see if this breaks or not. But this also calls out to the whole request for an integration repo to test these things against. So Tim, we should probably push on that issue as well. But let's maybe we can circle up after, not immediately after this call, but maybe sometime during the day to talk about it.
Clock's definitely ticking.
Woo! Yay! So short version, it should not affect y'all, and we should have it fixed soon. Knock on something around me. Yeah, it shouldn't affect you, hopefully, because it only happens when we're cutting to tags. I think, maybe, hopefully.
Sounds fun. For the sake of information and all that,
I'll link issues and PRs and all that stuff.
Thank you. And next up, I guess before that, any last questions, comments, concerns? Going once, twice. Next up, Emeritus Lead. Please take it over.
Hello. Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season and took some time off and didn't think about Kubernetes for a couple of days at least. I know I did. Excited to be back on the release team. My name is Lachlan Evenson. You may know me as Lockie or Hey You. Preferred pronoun is Hey You, Hey Yous. I'm Australian, but I live in San Francisco. Paraphernalia on my desk is a big thing. I always keep a boomerang and an ocarina just to knock out a quick Zelda tune whenever I need to. And I have a whole desk full of paraphernalia. I'm trying to find, I printed a Yoda head many years ago, but now I'm trying to find the baby Yoda. If you have a baby Yoda 3D model, feel free to send it over and I'll print it out. So I will be serving on the 118 release team as the Emeritus Advisor. I have been part of the release team since I worked on 114, 115, 116, took a break on 117, now back as EA on 118. If you're not familiar with EA, I will just give you a few of the responsibilities of the EA for the team to know. So as Stephen mentioned, we track former release retrospective items in the tracking issue that we're cleaning up, and I will be chasing people down to make sure that we hold the team accountable to things that we say we're going to fix between releases. I help with the shadow surveys and make sure that they're all sent out. I'll give you an update that on a moment. Help with assisting with the shadow selections in each of the roles, general orientation for shadows and any assistance that's needed for them onboarding or throughout the release, and then helping make sure the retro goes smoothly and running the surveys at the end of the release cycle. So if you have any questions or any queries about the role, I would ask you go to George. You can feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm on Kubernetes Slack as Lockie83. But I'd ask that you funnel it through George, and then George can say if he needs my assistance, I'm happy to help if things fall out of the direct line of responsibilities that I've outlined. So quick update. So far, I've been diligently working with George and Stephen. We got the shadow application survey sent out. I think it was before the holidays, it was around 12:18 we sent it out. So it's been open for a little over 2 weeks now. What I'm going to do is close that up today. We've had 71 responses. I think there were 2 tweets and an email on the mailing list. I will close that form up at 5 p.m. Eastern today. We currently have 71 responses, and I have scoured the responses, and we have a good, fairly even distribution of shadow applications for each of the roles, so enough to fill the need on the team. So I'm comfortable with closing that up. Now, this brings me to what we need all the role leads to do this week is I will be reaching out to you all individually, giving you access to the responses, and then you will go through for each of the people that have applied for your specific role and start to process the applications with the goal of selecting 3, you can have 4, you can have 2 as your role needs for each of your roles. So I will be helping get that. I'm going to throw out a date for the end of the week to have everybody at least selected and potentially first communications. We want to close out this shadow selection process by the end of next week. But, you know, obviously asking people and seeing if they're still up to it takes time, and then locking them in and updating the release team is what the goal is for the end of next week. But I will be reaching out to you also probably via Slack this week, and we will get that process going. That is all I have. Thank you, George. I'll flip it back to you.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction and for the update. Anyone has any comments, questions, concerns?
So there are probably going to be some things that fall out of well, there are some things that fell out of the 117 retrospective that Lockie, myself, Claire, and a few others have been discussing around more frequent syncs with the shadows and feedback loops and whether it makes sense to do shadow retrospectives. And there are a few chats about making sure that we feel that shadows are adequately prepared to lead for the next cycle, as well as they have an appropriate venue to voice opinions. My general thoughts, I think there was an issue open for this already, but my general thoughts were that everyone should feel welcome to provide feedback during a retrospective, and if they don't, that is because we have not adequately prepared. So we want to do more work to do that in 118. Again, like Lockie said, there are multiple venues for chatting about doing the work. This is, whether it be your leads, whether it be the release team lead shadows, the release team lead himself, the emeritus advisor, and figuring out like what the correct communication path is for that. Not that there needs to be any correct communication path for that, but prescribing a general one. Really, it's whoever you feel comfortable talking to. And then, from that shadow side and preparing them to be able to lead and have their voices heard, make sure they feel that they are welcomed in the community and in SIG release, but also from the other side, from the lead side, making sure that leads have the tools that they feel they need to adequately lead or adequately mentor, and filling any gaps between, filling any gaps within that feedback loop, right? So it seems that was a gap, or has been a gap, and we want to make sure that that is not the case. There is also chat about doing multiple retrospectives or doing the retrospectives in a different order, maybe doing a team retrospective first and then doing a community-wide retrospective afterwards, where we try to kind of filter the topics that we talk about, right? So if it's team process, maybe we talk about it in the team retrospective. And if it's community-wide process or issues, great things that happened, maybe we talk about that in the community-wide retrospective. So TBD, it's more stuff that we're going to shake out from that open retrospective issue, but something to be aware of.
Thank you for bringing that up. I completely forgot that was even a discussion. Which reminds me, please take a look at the release retrospective from 117. There's a lot of really good stuff there. And other than that, anyone has any more comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, I would say just give us like the week to tighten that issue up so that it's actually readable. Because right now it's essentially a dump of the retrospective notes, and it's not really clear where the action items are. So just allow us to tighten that up a little bit. I'm not saying don't read it, totally read it, but it will be a lot more clear once we link issues that are currently open and all that good stuff.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. And it's now up to me. So hi again, everyone. For my update, let me see. The couple things I want to bring up is within the lead team for this cycle, there's going to be Mr. Bobby Tables and Damini, which both of them, I don't think they were able to make this call for today, but I have awesome shadows, so they're gonna do some amazing job as they've been doing it thus far in past releases. In terms of scheduling, I link the PR in which I propose the schedule for 118. Please go through it, comment. If you have enough time to do everything that you need, please comment if any of the if all the dates fall in good times for you. Don't work in holidays for or anything of the sort. And other than that, the big things have already been mentioned. So today, Shadow application is closing. So at some point, we are actually gonna start picking up shadows, which is super fun. And one last comment that I wanted to bring up is in the past couple of releases, one comment that has been brought is that as the release team we could do a better job to try to facilitate asynchronous communication, especially because some people are in really different time zones as opposed to most of our US centric meetings. So one of the things that I wanted to try out for this release is to essentially make a, I don't know what to call it, so but essentially make a small blog post out of every release meeting. If for some reason you were not able to make it to the release meeting, always feel free to go into the meeting notes, go through them, and hopefully you'll have full sentences that will explain to you everything that was discussed, the highlights, the whys for everything, and the whys for everything that was decided. And if you have some questions, please feel free to drop a message, write a suggestion or whatever. Want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to be in the loop and for everyone to contribute, to throw ideas, to criticize, and hopefully that way we can make things better. And with that, I'll finish up, since I'm pretty sure that 6 scalability is not gonna give an update today. And other than that, any open issues, anything that anyone wants to throw out for discussion?
So one thing I noted during the retrospective is that we had the concept of like go signal reports before that kind of give you an idea of like whether or not we're good to go for the release, which is, I think, is similar to what we're doing in the notes right now. But it would be nice to get that automated somehow. So if people are interested in looking into that, we can start discussing that. Another is if we're going to move to, because people were kind of questioning the usefulness of the notes in general, kind of having to do the same report over and over, week by week or day by day, depending on if it's burnouts, if it's burnout. Wow, burned down. that's telling. So one of the notes I had there was, if we're going to move to more asynchronous communication, there needs to be clear, there needs to be a clear note about when things are going to get done, right? So like this team will have this report in by X time so that we can aggregate all of the reports together and send them out to the group, to the blog post, what have you. If asynchronous communication is going to work, there needs to be timelines that people can adhere to. So it doesn't need to be one global timeline, or rather it would be a global timeline since we have global teams. But I think that there would have to be multiple, and how the team decides what that is up to y'all. Just if it's going to work, if it's going to work, if we're going to apply automation to it, things will have to be in at certain times. That's my own.
Absolutely. Yeah, that really makes sense. The couple things just to add to the conversation that I was thinking is that, assuming that we keep the meetings on Monday, which I want to say is something that's likely to happen, given that in the past people keep choosing Mondays for meetings. How unreasonable will it be to try to write something that looks like a report by Friday, or Monday morning, and just keep working on it throughout Monday? Again, it doesn't need to be an entire book, just a couple sentences that say exactly what you're doing, the things that you're working on, when will they be finished, any issues that you're having, etc., and just essentially have end of day Monday, in whatever time zone you're in. Just have end of day Monday as the deadline for, okay, my report, my small report is going to be in the meeting notes, and that's the source of truth for the rest of the week. How does that sound?
End of whose day?
Whatever time zone you're in. If you're in India, then you have all your Monday to write it, finish it, and we work with your shadows, work with other people. Just make sure that essentially as soon as Monday ends for US Pacific, everyone has one source of truth for what's going on in a given week. What do you all think?
I mean, there's one way of finding out if it works, and that is to try it for a couple of weeks and see how it goes. Says the person that will not have to do it.
That's exactly why I muted it. It's like,
I'm sorry. It's just force of habit.
Sounds like a plan, though. But again, if you have some other ideas, please share them in the meeting notes, Slack. We have a lot of places for everyone to communicate, and let's try things out.
Speaking of meetings, we will likely be moving the SIG release and the release engineering meetings, which happen on the same time slot but alternating weeks, to when ? I'll get a doodle out. But people do not like Monday meetings. There's some people who do. Like, I was surprised to see so many people had chosen Monday meetings in general last cycle. But if we re-roll the schedules, do you want to be a part of that doodle, or?
The thing that I was thinking, and I just kind of assumed because at some point we discussed it some weeks ago, and I don't, and probably not everyone got their opinion in, but the idea was that at some point, whenever we actually got the shadows chosen, to actually to also throw a doodle in and figure out if people want to have the meeting sometime that is not someday that is not Monday as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Do we do? Yeah, I will. Yeah, you do your doodle first, and then we'll follow with the release doodles. That way we don't clash on times.
Okay, sounds good. Other than that, any other issues that people want to bring up? Okay, sounds good. With that, I'll let all of you go. And thank you very much for attending this impromptu meeting.
All right, thanks, George.
And in the future, I will remember to say that this is that there's a code of conduct for this video calls.
Retroactive code of conduct.
Happy Monday, everyone. Bye.
Bye.